Hello and welcome to the Body and Mind Health and Wellness Online Directory Members Interview. I am Nirvana Lange, and coming up in today's conversation, I'll be talking to Lilith Walliser, and she's going to chat to us about her personal development and stress management program, and she has a lot of other things with linked to that program. So, good afternoon, Lilith. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Nirvana, and thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. Yes, looking forward to learning a little bit about you, which is the first part of this discussion, and getting to know our members on the Body and Mind Health and Wellness Directory website. So tell me about your journey and what are those events and aspects that brought you to wanting to do this work. Were there certain things in your life? What was it that revealed that this is what you'd like to offer?
Well, I suppose the easiest thing to say is when I was a young adult, a teenager, young adult, I was a very complicated person. I was a drug addict and I had an eating disorder, and I was what one would call a highly dysfunctional individual. And I just kind of stumbled my way through this, uh, not really finding the help that I needed. Part of that was I often felt that the therapists that I was seeing at the time for the addictions and the eating disorders, they hadn't been there. So I felt that they didn't get it. And that was a big problem for me. And once I had actually sort of started getting my life together, I started thinking about this and thinking, well, I can make that difference because I've been there and everywhere else as well. So it was roundabout when I was 25. It was when I had my daughter. I looked at this little baby and I thought, well, if I'm going to raise her to be a functional woman, I need to be one first. And that's where my journey actually started. My healing actually started. So that took quite a while. And during that, I encountered hypnosis. And I thought, wow, this is now an effective tool. Once I was finished my therapy and the whole lot, I actually started studying psychology. And I was a little bit disappointed with it. It wasn't giving me the reach that I wanted. So I just sort of carried on with life. I was doing a lot of perspective mentoring and that type of stuff because I've always been the go-to person. So at this point, I was now, I'd cleaned up my life. I was, drug-free. I'd sorted out my eating disorder, which took years and years. It was difficult. And once I actually discovered this whole hypnosis thing, I realized it doesn't have to take that long. And your journey to healing doesn't have to be such a long and difficult process. If you can use hypnosis, you can fast track your healing exponentially. I mean, it was exactly what I was looking for.
Mm.
So look, I've always had a love of the mind because even as a young teen, before I actually started off with the whole drugs sort of journey that I went on there, I would be in the library reading up on the mind and, sort of the more sort of esoteric topics like near-death experiences and all of that type of stuff. And I'm talking sort of around the age of 14. It's always been a love for me is how do we work? So as a teenager, even when I was still a drug addict, I would be hypnotizing my friends. It was like a party trick, okay? So I would be hypnotizing them. We'd all be really stoned. I'd be hypnotizing them. We'd think this was a whole lot of fun. But at that point, obviously, I didn't really understand the power of what I was really working with. So it's not that it was brand new when I encountered it for the first time. So I think it was my journey, really, and the things that I went through that gave me such a deep insight into how we work, why we do the things that we do, how we end up getting stuck in really bad situations that made me realize I can make the difference. And it's always kind of been a calling. Like I say, I've always been the go-to person. So it was just sort of a really natural progression for me that once I'd healed myself, I could now take my knowledge and experience and share it with others to shorten their journey,
Mm.
really.
Mm. Wow, what an incredible story. And it's those dark nights of the soul, those um kind of, as you say, destructive things that eventually brings us to our healing, and then being able to be the teacher, once you've stepped out of being the pupil to be the teacher,
Absolutely.
and reach out to help others. All right, so let's get into your personal development and stress management speciality. Obviously, you've got things like losing weight and stress management, and your hypnotherapy that comes into that. So the floor is yours. I'd love to know all about what you have to offer and what that entails.
Okay. Let me start off with stress management because this is something I'm really incredibly passionate about. You see, I was seeing more and more in my private practice that it didn't really matter what I would teach somebody. If they didn't know how to manage their stress, they were perpetually being undone. And stress is something we cannot avoid. We are living in stressful times. Stress is an ever present thing in our lives. So I started realizing that if I really wanted to help my clients to the best of my ability, the first port of call was to actually teach them and give them tools that they could implement on the spot, on the go, how to deal with stress, manage stress, and stop it from running away from you. Because you see, the thing with stress is we generate so much of our own stress by the way we think, because the way we think is uncontrolled. And basically, we need to learn how to put our mind on a leash and actually be the captain of the ship rather than just be a passenger and kind of being thunk by our thoughts, so to speak. So that was what I found was a really effective starting point, was teaching them how to actually think better and access themselves. And I do a combination of hypnosis, self-hypnosis, teaching them how to do it so that ultimately you are managing from day to day, hour to hour, and when a really stressful situation comes along, you know how to deal with it. So the aim and the result is you're able to stop panic attacks before they happen. If they do happen, you know how to deal with them. If somebody else is having them, you know how to deal with them. And by implementing the tools on the go every day, it becomes a part of you, and your whole system starts sort of dropping down, becoming less sensitive, becoming less triggered. So I've always found that's a really good starting point. So I either do that in private one-on-one consultations, or before lockdown, I was doing that in the form of workshops. I would do it for schools, private groups, corporates, the whole lot, because I don't think you could show me one person in the world that doesn't need stress management, So the workshops are really very much of a passion of mine, because that way I get to reach a lot of people, impact a lot of people, make a big difference, and it's a very sort of uplifting experience. The personal development, that's always so nice for me. That's interesting because it really depends on what does the client want. And I always prefer to look at things as student-teacher relationship rather than client-therapist. So what do they want to learn about themselves? What do they want to master? What do they want to improve? It doesn't really matter whether it's they're coming to improve their golf swing, or they're coming to improve their fencing speed. All of these things can be mastered when you learn how to master your mind, when you learn how to master your thinking, and when you learn how to get your subconscious mind to be part of your team instead of it kind of working randomly and on its own. Because when we're subject to it that way, that's where things tend to go awry. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, some people want to come for, sort of more anxiety management. Other people want to come for relationship problems. Some people want to come for dream analysis. It really depends on what do you want to learn about yourself? What do you want to master? And then the weight loss, that's also something I'm passionate about. And it's not really just weight loss. It's eating disorders, actually, so it's not people that want to lose 5 kilos here or there. It's people that have really battled year after year after year and are getting absolutely nowhere. And there's a reason they're getting nowhere. And that reason is they're treating the symptoms rather than the cause. Eating disorders, whether it's overeating, whether it's undereating, it's got its roots in an emotional cause. So if you are trying to go to gym, take all these diet products, you might be successful for a little while. You might actually lose some weight, but then it's going to come back and bring along all its friends as well. So this is the cycle I'm wanting to break. So I actually put together a package where we do the hypnosis, we go there, we find out what is the emotional cause. Why do you have this relationship with food and your body? Fix that limiting belief because it's crippling. And once you've changed that, their entire perspective around food changes, their entire relationship around food changes, and it changes immediately. And that's the nice thing, is you immediately notice that you're thinking about food differently. So it's really empowering. They start losing weight from the beginning because now it's easy because they've actually fixed the problem. I also do a lot of support with that with mind training audios. That's also something I'm really passionate about, is it's training the subconscious mind through listening to audios that have a whole lot of really carefully put together affirmations. And it uses a technique called stereo confusion, which basically the subconscious mind just says, the conscious mind just says, I'm not listening to this. Too much, switching off. And so you manage to bypass it and it just slides straight into the subconscious mind and you gradually start reprogramming that way. So it's a whole lot of tools that I use, and it doesn't really matter whether it's for stress management, whether it's sleeping, personal development. I like to use the recordings because it reinforces, it enhances everything, and it really speeds up the entire process. So that gives you a pretty good overview of what I'm doing.
And so obviously now with the current situation, the narrative that we are in, this is going to be more offered online because, at the moment we have all of these restrictions. How is that? I always say that I'm unhypnotizable. So how is that easy for somebody? I'm always in my head, like I'm, so powerful in my head, and to get out of it is yeah, it's a big
Well, if
challenge
you're
for
so
somebody.
powerful in your head, then you should be so easily hypnotized. You see, because here's the thing. When you are doing hypnosis, you are the one that's doing the work. You driving the car. I'm really the navigator that's sitting in the passenger seat with the map. So I'm your guide, essentially. You're the one that's doing the work. And if you're one of these where, like me, I'm incredibly analytical and I have that constant narrative going on all the time, there are ways around that. Okay, so there are ways of actually distracting the conscious mind in a way that's going to benefit the experience and help you get into trance. Because, trance state is a perfectly natural state that we enter in many times a day. When you're driving home from somewhere and you kind of arrive home and you think, I don't remember the trip here. I hope I stopped at the robots and things like that.
I do that
That's
all the
because
time.
that's because you were in a trance state.
Yeah.
So a trance state is a really natural state for us to be. When you wake up in the mornings, you smack right there in a trance state already. That's why it's such a good time to do meditating, is because you are already there. And that's something else I'm really, really passionate about, by the way, is the importance of meditating, but it's more sort of the hypno meditations, because it's using a combination of self-hypnosis and meditation. It just like supercharges what you can achieve when you know that process, and you can get yourself into trance state before you start focusing on what it is that you're wanting to manifest. Doing it online,
Yeah.
okay, on the one-on-ones, it makes no difference, because you know what? When I'm hypnotizing you, your eyes are closed and you're listening to my voice. You really don't need to be in the same room as me to do that. So as long as you've got a stable internet connection, it makes no difference. I do a lot of overseas coaching. I do that in the evenings. So it doesn't make a difference. You don't have to be with me for it to work. All you've got to do is be able to hear me.
And
And
so,
like I say, have a stable connection.
yeah, so I've had two distractions while I was to have this conversation with you. This first distraction I had, and she always does this when I'm doing a Zoom call, is my cat. She comes in, gives me this incredible meow, and then I have to show her over here where her little pedestal is. So I've got to reach out my hand and give her a scratch, because otherwise she won't leave me alone. So that is like, so I'm just kind of putting that into and then I had a knock on the door, which I'm a very quiet, and I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody at my door. And obviously it's probably somebody who's, needing assistance in what position they are in their life. So it wasn't anybody I was expecting. So like in your space, this is the analytical mind going with you here. So in your space, I'm in a closed room, I don't have the cat, I don't have the door, like all of that. So how again do I set myself up in a way that I don't, because remember, these are also self-sabotaging things that happens, that we seem to attract in the time that you're doing that. So how do you overcome those distractions, and can they be overcome? Again, I'm gonna, just like a person like myself, I struggle to sit still, like I really
Okay. So you also got that little bit of an ADD brain going on there.
Mm,
So do I. And I think that's also really a big advantage, is because I'm so ADD, because I'm so analytical, and because I have that constant narrative, I know ways that work. And as for the distractions and the whole lot, yes, what you do is you just make those kind of things, the sounds, the events that are happening around, just kind of natural and part of the process to facilitate it. So it's sort of those suggestions of, those kind of things, those sounds that you hear, the dogs, the cars, the neighbors, the whole lot. All that does is actually just helps focus you and send you a little bit deeper.
makes a lot of
So
sense.
yeah, so it's really using your environment to facilitate the process, so that you can get to where you need to be.
Yes, I can see that now. I can clearly see, you having the information that I've just parted with you and saying, okay, you hear the cat coming in, he's meowing, and that's helping you going deeper, or that's helping you. What you'll use that type of thing to, instead of pulling me out, to facilitate that somebody's knocking at the door, you don't have to worry about it, just
Yeah,
that's
well, actually, I usually put those suggestions in even before they happen,
ah,
because the world we live in is noisy.
mm,
So I preempt that by
mm,
saying, whatever's going to happen, it's all right. It's just, it will help you, it will focus you, it will just send you further into, so you can get where you need to go.
wonderful.
And because they're so focused on me and what I'm saying, I'm the dominant stimulus. So it's quite easy to let the other stuff go.
Wonderful. We've gone obviously a little bit longer than we needed to, but I'm so glad that I'd asked those questions, because somebody like myself who's going to watch this, would probably have those questions. And so hopefully that will answer people's questions regarding doing online hypnosis.
Absolutely, Yes.
And if they lose the connection, that's another question that people are worried about. If something happens and they lose the connection, are they going to stay in a hypnosis state, and what's going to happen to them? You know, I know that I know that it's not really something to worry about, but that is a question that people would ask. If you can quickly answer that for me.
Yeah. So that's something I cover up front as well, because it has actually happened. So I tell them, if the connection drops, just stay where you are, just enjoy that space. I will get back to you. Now, I also do recordings, while I'm actually rectifying something. I often do a recording. So if I'm like almost finished that recording, I will actually finish it before I call them back and do that, so that the recording is done for them already, because that's what I'm going to be sending them. So they can just lie there and enjoy the space, enjoy that sort of deep, peaceful relaxation that they're in. And then when I'm ready, or when the connection's, right, then I just call them back. They just answer, and then they drop down very quickly again. So even dropping the connection, it's not a big deal. It's just, like I say, we cover it before we even go into trance, so they can just lie there and enjoy the trance. I mean, this is your me time, it's fantastic. How often do you get to really relax on that deep level in the middle of the day?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much, Lilith. And if you can give us your contact details, where people can get hold of you, if you've got social media links, anything like that that you'd like to share with us.
Okay, so you can go to my website, which is lifeupgrade.co.za. I'm really, really, really bad. I'm completely sucky at social media. I'm trying. Okay, so my Facebook page, I'm trying to do this thing now. So you'll be able to find me either under my personal name or under Life Upgrade in Facebook. And I've just like yesterday, 2 days ago, kind of a thing, started a Life Upgrade ZA Instagram account. But I'm really bad at that. Marketing is not my forte. Or just send an email to info@lifeupgrade.co.za.
Fantastic. That's why we're here, Lilith, to help you with body and mind, to help you with that marketing, to help that exposure for you, and to put you out on our social media and mailing list, and so that people can find you. You are an excellent speaker. I really enjoyed this interview. It's definitely longer than the normal ones, and really, really enjoyed it. So people can go to the Body and Mind website, which is bodyandmind.coza. They can also go to our Body and Mind blog site, bodyandmindblog.coza. You can also download the Body and Mind Health and Wellness Directory app in your Apple as well as in your Android Play stores, and you can interact with us that way. Please do subscribe, ring that little bell so that you can get notifications on our YouTube channel, and share this with somebody that you think can gain benefit out of these amazing conversations. And thank you very much, Lilith, for putting your faith into Body and Mind, and letting us have the honor of sharing your beautiful work. Thank you so much for your talk today.
Well, thank you very much, Navon, and I'm very excited to be part of Body and Mind.
Thank you very much, Lilith. You have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you.